How's it going, everyone? I am Dylan, this is All You Can Board, and today we're talking about a new game coming out called Fit to Print. Now, this is designed by Peter McPherson, it is published by Flatout Games, and the art is by Ian O'Toole. This is a really exciting project and one that has been on my radar, on Carlo's radar for a while, and we're really excited to be able to do a preview of this for the Kickstarter campaign, and thank you to Flatout Games for sending us a copy of this to be able to cover it in advance, and so that we could play it ahead of time, because selfishly that we were really excited to do that. So, Fit to Print. This is a real-time game, and what I mean by that, in case you're not familiar, is that essentially there's no turns. You are just, everyone is playing at the same time, and there's a timer, and you are working within the constraints of that timer to get everything done. That makes it a very frantic game, a very funny game, and it also makes it a very quick game to play. Like, this is one that you can get multiple rounds of if you don't want to just sit down and just play one session. You might want to actually play multiple sessions, and it kind of encourages that too, just by having that low play time and the variability, which we'll get into in a little bit. So I'm going to give you a kind of a breakdown of how this plays, just like really quick rules overview, and then I'm going to tell you some thoughts, games it compares to, and things you might want to consider to decide if you want to back this for yourself. Okay, so Fit to Print has 3 rounds, and each round has 2 distinct phases. And now each round is a day of the weekend, so essentially Friday, Saturday, Sunday, those are the 3 rounds. And the 2 phases are the reporting phase and the layout phase. So every single one of those rounds is going to have both those phases, and they all function the same. The difference is going to be in the amount of space you're trying to cover with tiles. It'll progressively get larger. So Friday's going to be the smallest space to cover, Saturday grows a little bit, and then Sunday is even bigger than that, and you use the other side of the sheet to have more space to cover. The reporting phase is essentially, you have this pile of tiles, they'll all be face down, I have some face up here, but they'll all be face down to start, and there's gonna be a timer. When that timer starts, I think the standard amount is 4 minutes, and you can go 3 minutes if you want it more frantic, or 5 minutes if you want it more relaxed. You are gonna have 4 minutes to essentially pick up a tile that is face down, bring it over top of your personal playing area, flip it over, and decide if you wanna keep this tile. If you do, you're gonna put it onto your reporting desk here, and you're gonna continue doing this until you think you've acquired enough to be able to effectively cover the area that you're trying to cover, whether it's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. At that point, you're gonna say layout, and you're gonna switch to phase 2, which means that one person could be in phase 2, while other people are still in phase 1, because you don't have to all transition at the same time. What you're specifically looking for is there's all different types of tiles. There are articles, there's photos, there's ads, and all of them have these different ways of scoring. I'm not gonna get into all the scoring conditions specifically here. I think it's also just easier to read that and kind of see that on the breakdown of the page than it is for me to necessarily explain it. But essentially, it'll be things like having one type of tile next to another type of tile. Like a lot of the photo, or all the photos will say, you will get a point for every pink article that is touching this, or every pink and blue article that is touching this. And when you're doing the layout, or when you're picking your tiles, you're then looking for pink and blue articles to be able to match with that photo, for instance. So there's an adjacency kind of point, a way of acquiring points. Ads specifically are getting you income, getting you money, and at the end of the game, whoever has the least amount, has acquired the least amount of money, income from the ads, will be ineligible to win, essentially, in player counts that are larger than 2. And in a 2-player game, it works out that you end up getting a penalty if you are a certain amount lower than the other person you're playing with in terms of the ad revenue. And the reason that works that way is that ads don't get you any points. So it's this other thing you have to manage, and you have to say, how many ads am I willing to go for to not be the person who's in last place, but at the same time, they're not getting me any points. So if I put too many in, I'm wasting space on my board. So you're managing different point totals, you're managing different, like the ads, you have your own starting tile that I'll get into in a little bit, that has its own special way of scoring and ability and stuff, and you're just trying to create the most effective layout you can. It's gonna get you the most points and maximize the space so that you don't have too much empty white space, but you can't be like grabbing tiles and starting to place them like this and saying, okay, I think I'm good now. Everything just, you can look at it and kind of look at your board, look at what you've acquired, but all you can do is add it to your table. So you're kind of guessing whether you have enough tiles in your table and you're ready to proceed, and you'll never quite, I shouldn't say never, but you'll not often get it exactly right. You'll be like, oh, I guess I could have taken a couple more tiles, or I took a couple too many, I'm gonna get some negative points for it. So you're always kind of managing that. That is the reporting phase. In the layout phase, you're essentially placing everything. So you switch to layout, you're working within the same time constraint. It's not like you get an additional 4 minutes, it's all the exact same amount. You now have to place everything in an effective way to score before that timer runs out, and at that point when you're finished, you can call it, and you're ready to score for that round. And we're gonna do this 3 times for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Whoever has the most points wins. That's a really quick overview of it, but honestly, that's pretty much the rules of the game. There's a couple of intricacies there, like I said, with some of the point totals that I didn't get into, but in general, that's really how it plays. It's a really easy game to pick up, and it's a really easy game to learn and play and kind of just quickly jump back into. Okay, so really quickly before I get into some of the more in-depth thoughts on how this plays, just a couple quick comparisons if you're wondering, like, am I going to like this game, or what other games would I, maybe be into that would indicate that I would like this game. The two that come to mind for me are Galaxy Trucker. A lot of similarities just based on the real-time play. It seems like certain elements maybe a little bit inspired by that game. And then also Magic Maze, another real-time game. Those are the two that jumped out to me, that if you enjoy those games specifically, there's a really good chance you'll enjoy this game, or even one of those specifically, or you've been intrigued by them. This will kind of fit in that same genre and style of play, and you might want to check it out if you're into those games. Okay, so reasons you may want to back Fit to Print. First one is going to be variability. This one for me is an awesome feature of this game, is just with all of your starting tiles and the tiles you're going to acquire in subsequent rounds in Saturday and Sunday games, they all have their own unique scoring condition on them, and two sides that each have different scoring conditions as well. So you're constantly going to have this unique way to score that, it's going to take you a while to get through them all and see them all personally on your own player board. So you're always going to have this other thing you're scoring for that you're kind of keeping track of, trying to keep account of. And also, you just are always going to be grabbing new tiles from the center of the board. There's tons of tiles in this game. What you acquire is going to be different every single time. How you manage what you're acquiring to score the most points is going to be a challenge you're always overcoming. There are also two considered advanced variants that come with this game. One is player powers, the other one is breaking news. And honestly, I would just maybe play the game once without. That's what Carlo and I did. But after that, I would just include both at all times. They didn't add that much to the complexity in terms of rules overhead, but what they add in terms of variability and interest was so great. The breaking news especially are these kind of like unique conditions that'll come up, one for each day of the week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, each of the rounds, day of the week, day of the weekend. And they're going to just change an aspect of the game or give you another limitation you have to work within. Like you could have one where it says, for this round of the game, you can't place any blue news articles below the fold on your player board, which means the bottom half of your board, you can't place any blue news articles, which is now this extra restriction you're having to keep in mind. And if you forget about it and you get called out in the scoring phase, you're going to have to flip those tiles face down, score nothing for them. So having these extra things to consider makes the games so much more interesting, and it has so much variability to it that honestly, I would just start including those as soon as you feel comfortable doing so. I don't think that they add too much complexity. It's going to be this barrier that is the difference maker for someone who's playing it, even if they're not as familiar with games. But it just added so much to our games, and the player powers are very similar. It's just kind of these minor additions that you can have an extra leg up on your opponent for, and they'll have an extra leg up on you with something they can do better than you can. They're not like game-breaking player powers, at least not the ones that we used, but they're stuff that just adds extra interest and extra layers to the decisions you're making. So that would be one of my main things, is just my main suggestions, include those, and that's just one of the strong reasons why I think variability is just a great feature in this game, and something you might want to consider when you're thinking about whether or not you want to back this. Is how important is it to you to have a game that's going to have longevity and have a lot of change going on from game to game. I think it's pretty high in a game like Fit to Print. Second big thing is the playtime. This is a really quick playing game. The rounds are lightning fast. Really, they are 4 minutes. Like if you're playing with the standard time, you're doing a 4-minute round 3 times. That's 12 minutes right there. The only other time you're adding is clean up and upkeep between the rounds, which obviously adds a little bit of time. But in general, you're playing for 12 minutes. You know that because those are the timers. So this is a game that you can always know you're going to finish within a really set amount of time, or really quick plays that you'll often be brought back to, or be brought back by the game to want to play again, be compelled to play again, because you're like, well, we for sure have time. We can do another game in 20 minutes for sure, and you'll just end up throwing down another session of it. And that's what Carlo and I did. We really enjoyed it like that, and I think that a lot of people will really benefit from having a game like that in their collection, if you don't already, that you can guarantee is going to get played in a really short amount of time and provide a lot of fun at the same time. And lastly, and I'm including this as the last one because it kind of functions as a reason you may want to back it and a reason you might not want to back it. It really depends on your personal playing preference, is how frantic this game is. So this game is one that could lead to induce some anxiety with how frantic it is and how you're under this really strict time limit. So for those reasons, and that very could well deter some people from it being a game that they want to purchase, to have in their collection. For me, however, and I think for Carlo as well, the franticness of this game is what makes it so special, because you have so many different scoring conditions and restrictions to consider. I didn't even mention in the scoring in that overview of the rules that there's also restrictions. You can't have same colored articles next to each other. You can't have two photos next to each other. All those are things that'll make you have to flip tiles upside down in the scoring and not score for them at all. So not only are you managing how am I going to best place all this to score as effectively as I can, when you're picking tiles and when you're placing them, you're also thinking, okay, I can't place these next to each other. I can't place these next to each other. You have your own special personal thing you're scoring for that you're also considering. Then you're maybe also considering player powers, and you're also considering break and use. So yes, it's absolutely a lot, but that's what makes it so compelling to come back to, because you can. It's going to take a while before I feel like, anyways, it's going to take a while before you can feel like I've mastered this type of game or this game specifically, where it doesn't bother me anymore. There's so many things to manage. I can just effectively score, and it's easy. Like, I feel like it would take me a long time to get to that point, because I'm constantly being like, oh wait, but I didn't think about this can't be next to this, or oh, I forgot I even have this power, and you're constantly managing all that. So it makes it so that every game you don't quite do the best you can. You haven't figured the game out, and so it brings you back because you think, well, I want to try it again because I know I can do better. I know I can beat that score. I know that I can plan better by looking at how many ads I got. I got too many ads last time. I'll think about that better. Like, there's always something drawing you back in. That would obviously be the reason that it's a pro, that it would compel you to buy it or to back it. But the on the flip side of that is if you're someone that like does get overwhelmed by games and just like wants things to be even just a slight bit more relaxing, or you'd have time to consider your choices and decide if you're making the best move, this is not that kind of game. This is, you have a time limit, you are moving fast, every second counts, you are just go, and that might not be for everybody. That being said, it is important to note that there is going to be a variant in the rule book, and it's in here now, where it's going to be turn-based, and you don't have to play real time. So I still think this is going to be a game that is better in that real-time capacity, but having that option is great, because then if you have like a variety of groups playing it, you can play it real time, you can play it turn-based, and you have that choice to kind of flip between them depending on who you're playing with. And the last thing to consider as a reason maybe you might not want to back it is kind of tied to the one I just mentioned, but more just this is not like a deep strategy game. This is a lighter game, and even though it offers lots in terms of replayability and trying to like master scoring and getting better at it and creating the best layout, it's not in the sense of like you having time to really plan things out and strategize and think long term. Like, that's not the type of game it is, and if that's the type of gamer you are, this is not going to be the one that scratches that itch for you. Couple other really quick things I want to note is the artwork is obviously beautiful. Till did an amazing job with the artwork in here. All the tiles have unique, like all the articles have unique fake article titles that are really funny, and that you can, even though you don't have time to read them as you're placing them, or if you do, you're kind of stealing time away from yourself or everything you're trying to accomplish. Once your layout's done, it's always fun to go back and read the articles that you've actually placed into your paper and how everything kind of comes together. That's really, really fun. The artwork on the actual photos themselves, same thing. Awesome to kind of like look over all of them after and really admire them all. You have to kind of pull yourself away from doing that when the timer's on, because you just don't have time. But afterwards, it's fun to kind of look at everyone's and kind of read off some of the articles to each other and see what everyone has on their page. So that's, the thematics really come out in this game, and it's really beautiful because of all the great artwork and everything. I mean, the cover of this game when I first saw it is one of the things that drew me to it right away. It's really striking, and it's just really, really well designed. So it's just a beautiful looking game that I think is going to make it so that it's attractive to people, and it's going to be something that draws them in from afar, or if you bring it to the table to introduce to people, they're going to be receptive to a game like this because it looks really approachable. And the last thing I want to mention is that it does have a solo mode, and it has two solo modes. It has the regular solo mode, which is kind of like the same way you would play the regular rules, just with a different kind of approach to it to accommodate the fact that you're playing by yourself. But it also has a puzzle mode, and the puzzle mode is something that is really unique, and I think I've seen it in as many games, where you're going to have like specific criteria of things you're trying to accomplish or things you're trying to fit in the best way possible into a layout, and you have to see if you can come up with the best way to fit everything onto the page and stuff like that. So having these additional ways to play it solo and having that kind of effort put in to the solo modes is really, really great, and it makes it so that it's a game that's already quick and really fun to play. You can actually also play on your own and not have to necessarily wait for a moment where you have other people around the table. So all things considered, I mean, this is, I should have mentioned at the start too, but this is a prototype, but this is like, even though a lot of this is close to final, it's not exactly final. Things can change during the campaign, but based on the a copy I'm playing now. Like, I have had a ton of fun with this game, and it's one that I am so anxious and eager to introduce to other people in my gaming group and in my life, because it's one that I think will be really, really received well by a lot of people, based on how easy it is to understand the rules, how easy it is to play, and how much you get out of it, like satisfaction-wise, for that quick playing time. That this could easily be one of those games that kind of sits on your shelf, that even if it doesn't end up being your, one of your top 10 games of all time, it's one that gets one of the most plays out of any game in your collection because of how many situations you can get it to the table. And in that regard, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck when you're considering backing a game like this on a Kickstarter campaign. So that is Fit to Print. We have been really excited to try it out early. Cannot wait to see the campaign go through its motions, and for this game to actually be released in retail and for everyone else to get their hands on it. If you have any other questions about this game, anything I didn't answer here, just ask me in the comments. I'm happy to answer. Obviously, you can also ask on the Kickstarter campaign page and in the comments there. But if you want anything to answer from me specifically, please just let me know in the comments. I will answer as best as I possibly can. Otherwise, thanks for watching this video, and again, thanks to Flatout Games for sending us this preview copy to check out, and we will see you next time.